What do One Piece, Yu Yu Hakusho, and Death Note all have in common right now? Other than the fact that they're all like top-level shonen manga. Well, let me tell you, it's the fact that all three of these projects have a live-action series being made by Netflix. And now that can inspire one of two thoughts. That can just fill you with such unimaginable joy. You can just feel the magic of just your favorite property coming into a bigger screen to a wider audience with more people ready to enjoy it. And the other half of you are probably feeling a big pit in your stomach. You're absolutely hating the idea of Netflix fucking with one of your favorite things in the world. And I can't blame you, because to be completely honest, I sit somewhere in that area. But in this case, I think that maybe we could give it a shot. And hold on, before it gets anywhere, I just want to give some reasons. When it comes to things like the One Piece adaptation, you've got direct influence from Oda himself coming through. I mean, goddamn, some of the updates we're getting aren't even from the actual Netflix team. They're from this motherfucker himself, which shows you that this is gonna at least try to be something that's gonna be very faithful to its source material. When it comes to the Yu Yu Hakusho property, that's something that's actually casted full-on Japanese actors. So at the very least, you know that they're not trying to whitewash the entire story here. They're trying to actually do justice by making it as accurate as possible as well. And lastly, I would say with the Death Note adaptation, while we still don't know how it's gonna look like, we do know that the Duffer Brothers, the same ones that made Stranger Things, are gonna be working on this series. And depending on whether or not you like Stranger Things or not, I can tell you right now that it is at least an objectively good show that people all around enjoy. I mean, there's a reason that it's one of the most popular things on Netflix. So it can't be all too bad. At the very least, it's gonna be better than that fucking 2016 Death Note adaptation, that garbage that came out. But then again, that was all made by Netflix, so I don't know. That's all up there. What I'm more concerned about are the other live-action anime adaptations that have been announced, but nothing's really come up from them yet. Because we can see at the very least that Netflix is trying, but these other companies, well, who knows? Hi y'all, I'm Bayfond, and a recent set of tweets from one of the creators of Steins Gate has got me thinking about live action adaptations. In his set of tweets, he was talking about how the Japanese live action of Steins Gate fell through because one of the companies tried to hire one of their in-house actors, and that really didn't fit the entire story. Which just got me thinking about like other live action adaptations, because of course there's a ton of them that are made in Japan that a lot of times aren't really going to be translated here in the States. So I'm more focused on those Hollywood live action adaptations, because it might come as a surprise to you, Steins Gate is also supposed to be getting a live action Hollywood series, as how they announced in one of their big 10-year anniversary events, made by Skydance Media. The same people that make all those Tom Clancy TV shows that are gonna be on like Amazon and stuff like that. So when I heard this, I was like, okay, that's interesting. Let's see what they do. And then they announced as well that they were also gonna try and hire an all Japanese cast. Again, I was kind of pumped about that. But then there's the fact that it's also been about 3 years, and the studio has been pretty much radio silent since. And that kind of doesn't seem all right. Then again, we did go through COVID. But let's see, what other things has this studio put out recently? Oh, Ghosted. Oh, that's fun, right? We'll see how this turns out, if it's even still in the works. But if Steins Gate's not something that you're interested in, Skydance is also the company that also bought out the rights for the Sword Art Online movie back in like 2016, 2017. So if I'm over here complaining about how long it's taken Steins Gate to get into production, Sword Art Online has been taking a metric fuck ton of time in comparison. Like, Jesus. And again, we still haven't gotten any really big major updates here. Skydance is a pretty reputable company. I mean, Tom Cruise is at the helm of a lot of their projects, but it's kind of a shame that we haven't heard about these things that were announced years ago. And again, just because they might hire a Japanese cast, it doesn't mean that they're gonna keep the same like Japan aesthetic, the same story structure. They might westernize everything else. And Steins Gate and SAO aren't the only two projects that I wanted to talk about today, because there's a shit ton more as well. When we're talking about shonen, one of the biggest shonens of all time has been set to have an anime Hollywood live action movie in the works for quite some time, and that's My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia is a project that's been thrown around so often that at one point, The Rock was in the running to play All Might, even though, while I get that he's probably the closest that we can get to a personality as large as All Might in real life, I really wouldn't recommend it. I mean, there's probably several different reasons I can say so. But I could also throw out the fact that he could probably do a kind of Shazam situation and kind of fuck over the entire franchise in live action if he kind of joins. I don't really think the best of him at this current moment. A little bit of an update that might not matter, but in the time that it took me to make this video, the My Hero Academia movie got a supposed cast that was leaked on IMDb. And it was just filled with so much stuff that just looked like complete bullshit. You've got Bruce Wayne from Gotham playing Midoriya, you've got one of the kids from Henry Danger playing Bakugo, and you've got Bran the Broken playing the fastest man in this entire show. This was definitely someone just playing a joke on people or just putting up their own favorite fan castings. But yeah, it got removed, so it doesn't really hold anything here in this regard. We're back in the abyss of knowing absolutely nothing about this adaptation. But then looking at the other side of shonen, the One Punch Man adaptation started production in 2022. I know, that came as a big shock to me because that's something that I didn't really expect. And the guy that's helming this thing is gonna be the director of Fast and the Furious. I was a little concerned at first, but considering everyone's reviews of Fast 10, it kind of seems like everyone in that world already has superpowers, so it's not gonna be too much of a leap. I can just say that it's probably gonna be absolutely insane and they can really ham it up to 10. I just don't know if the humor is gonna be there. I mean, they might even get like Vin Diesel to do Saitama, so who even cares? But I wish it the best of luck. Hopefully it doesn't come out to be complete, utter garbage. And in the dark fantasy realm, Hellsing has been a project that is recently getting attention because one of the creators of John Wick has actually thrown his hat into the ring to make this an actual live action property. And I don't know about you guys, but a John Wick style Alucard movie where he's just completely kicking ass and everything is like completely drenched in blood, I would absolutely adore that. That would be a gore fest and a fantastic dark movie. If it's anything remotely close to the John Wick movies, I don't really think that they can do bad here. Honestly, if this goes through, this is one that I have high hopes for. But I'd say if nothing like this really catches your eye, there's also a very special movie that a lot of people hold near and dear to their hearts that is supposed to be getting a live action movie that really seems to be the most concerning for me. And that's Your Name. I think pretty much since the movie came out and became one of the top earners in Japan, it was set to get like a Hollywood adaptation of it. But the things that were going on when it was announced sounded kind of weird. Because you see, Your Name is a movie that is frankly very, very Japanese. Traditional Japanese. It takes place in a village that has a lot of shrines and shrine maidens and a lot of rituals and ceremonies, things like that. So in order to bring that over into a Western audience, they kind of were thinking about making the entire situation instead of Japanese into Native American. So they would be playing off of things in that regard. Now, I don't know how closely related or how tied these things could be, but I just think Your Name is intrinsically very Japanese. So basically stripping that away from the story is something that can really hinder it at large. Because I think that maybe misrepresenting what Native American culture is and what their spirituality is about is probably something that can be a pretty big deal. Yeah, you can't just move along and say, close enough. You gotta kind of treat these things with care because that's what Your Name was treated with care. So they would have to have a really good and tight plan if they have some sort of idea on how this should work. The worst case scenario is that this ends up being like a white savior story here. And that really would not end up well. And then there's also the fact that this movie probably has to go along with that pressure of going up against itself because, you know, Your Name is definitely not one of the highest grossing movies of all time when it comes to animation in general. You know, no, don't sweat it. Just make whatever you can, right? So I'm pretty sure that the pressure is pretty much weighing down on everyone on that side of production. There's no real way to escape that looming fact. But really, only time can tell how any of these movies and TV shows are gonna turn out. We can only throw around speculations from those little tidbits of information. I mean, I know some of you might be hoping that some of these projects are canceled, but I honestly think that they're gonna keep these in their banks until they need them for a rainy day. It seems like they bought all of these rights the second that anime started looming into the mainstream. So that's when big money Hollywood comes in and they're like, one day, it's gonna be big enough for us to actually act on it. Greed is definitely one of the biggest driving factors to get these projects to be made because anime is only gonna keep getting bigger. I just hope that the directors and producers and staff at large just care enough about the projects to try and make them good. But with this, I just wanted to share some of my worries and concerns that I have with anime adaptations coming out. I mean, we've had a pretty shoddy track record right now. I would say like there's only a handful of good ones like Oldboy and Edge of Tomorrow. I just hope we get more of those kinds of movies, like, you know, good adaptations. But that might all just be wishful thinking. As always, I was Bayfond, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.